Hey everybody, what's going on? I am Jamie Dawn, your evolutionary revolutionary astrologer, bringing you your celestial wisdom for the upcoming week, which happens to be the week of September 29th through October 5th. Maybe I may bleed into like the 5th or 6th, depending on what's going on here. If you hear a little congestion going on with me, yeah, I picked up a little something when I came back from the East Coast from visiting my beautiful, as I call him, handsome Samson grandson. And, I have no doubt that it's some of that energetic clearing that is happening. Yes, it's a physical thing, but also it was me gearing myself up energetically to deal with some, we'll say, past stuff and seeing some people that I haven't seen in a long time, connecting with people, some new people. And also, as many of you probably know, and this may happen to you too, is when you know you're about to step into a situation where you know your practices are going to come in handy, then it's like you build and you build all this anticipation, and then you're in the moment and you're practicing whatever it might be, and you're on point, right? Like you're just on. Well, and then when it all is said and done, you sort of crash and burn, if you will. And that's what I know happened for me. It was a very quick trip. My daughter and I took a red eye, and then we had a 2.5 hour delay getting back home. So it was after midnight when I got home Sunday night into Monday morning. So I know some of this is exhaustion too, which also adds to a compromise to the immune system. I'm saying these things because we have an eclipse week, a new moon in Libra eclipse week. The energy is intense when there's eclipses involved because it's like a newer full moon on steroids. And this is our last Libra Aries eclipse before the nodes of the moon will transition into the signs of Virgo Pisces in January. So all of that to say, we're all going to be manifesting the energies or working through it in different ways. For me, I'm shedding old energies, toxins, that sort of thing. Also, because I'm so empathic, I'm picking up stuff from other people and releasing that also. And so, I'm grateful that all it is a little congestion. I don't feel bad or anything. It just has this sound to it, blowing my nose, all that fun stuff that goes along with the summer cold kind of thing. But I put that pin on the map for all of us because we're going to be processing this energy, releasing it in some way, shape, or form. Some of you who I talk to are like, oh, I'm crying again. So what? Tears are good. They're cleansing. Let them come. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. They've got to go somewhere. If we bottle up our tears, we just consternate that energy. It crystallizes inside of us, and that's where disease often happens, right? So let it flow. Let it flow. The other thing we have this week, we have a Venus in Scorpio now, and it's trining Saturn in Pisces. And also, it's going to make a trine to Mars in Cancer. So, we're going to have this grand water trine that's going to show up in the next week and a half or so. And so, we're going to be feeling the emotional body, the watery energy quite a bit with this Venus Mars Saturn triangle, if you will, that's happening. So, those are some big things. Also, on the new moon eclipse, which happens to be Wednesday, October 2nd, Venus, Mars trine, I mentioned, but Chiron and Jupiter are sextiling. So I'll get into a little bit of that. But again, pins on the map that as we're leading up to the actual new moon, we may be feeling an expansion of thoughts that are coming into our minds where we're going, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, or I need to speak up more. I'll mention this too before I pull a card for the week, that are what we're being triggered with right now is, and this often happens for most of us, is that our mind starts creating these stories or things we feel we need to speak about, but we hold on to them. And then once we say them to whomever needs to hear it, or we write it down in our journal or pray about whatever it might be that helps you, suddenly we feel this release happening. I was triggered the other day because I felt that someone wasn't telling me the whole truth. And I hate when my intuition just won't let it go. And I debated with myself. I was like, do I call them out on it? or do I let this go? Is this truly something I need to just work with? And in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything. Anyways, I ended up choosing not to say something to this individual because I was in the height of my emotions. And two, I looked at it from the bigger picture and I thought, this one little incident is, I could make a big deal out of it because it really is very benign. I mean, it wasn't anything major or serious. And if I called them out, they would most likely defend their stance and probably continue to keep whatever this half truth was alive, you know? And I thought, I'm it's not worth it to me. Now that's a very Libra response, right? I don't want the conflict. However, I wasn't avoiding the conflict as much as I was checking in with what was my motivation. Would this serve? Does it serve the higher good? That sort of thing. And then I had to ask myself, because I have a tendency to hold on to things for a while. I need to chew on them a bit and kind of wrap my arms around them. And so I sat there and I thought, what will help me let this go? And it took me a little while, but I have practices that assist me. And I finally was able to let it go. So thank goodness I'm on the other side of that. But I share that with you because most likely this is coming up from a lot of us, especially with that Venus and Scorpio, right? We can get a little suspicious, a little paranoid, a little, yeah, maybe that person was lying to me about it. And it's hard for me. But anyways, I understand people lie because they don't want to offend or hurt the other person and trying to save face and all that sort of thing. I'm not excusing the lie, but I'm just saying I understand it. As I always say to people, I will not get upset with you for being honest with me. I'd rather you be honest with me than to lie about it. But again, human is human, right? So that being said, interesting too, because last week's cards, right? We had the Seven of Swords, which is all about deception. Yeah. And so here we are. All right. So the card for this week, let's see, we have the Page of Cups. Here we go. In my Celtic deck, that's what it looks like, the Page of Cups. And my deck gives a little title at the top of the card. And this title is Reflection. I'm going to expand on the Page of Cups, but I love it because it's where some new idea or opportunity is coming up. There's creative energy that's flowing, and it's up to us to snatch it up. Are we going to take this new idea and turn it into something very appropriate with it being a new moon? Or are we going to let somebody else grab it and go, right? So we want to really pay attention to those new opportunities that come up. Also, the Page of Cups invites us to have an open and curious mind. And so we want to expand our mind, keep it open to all possibilities. And, that reminds me, I was talking to someone the other day, and their first response to a lot of new ideas is resistance, reluctance, and then finally they stop and they go, okay, I'm going to open. And that's what we're working with this Page of Cups, is that it's like, can I be open to some other possibilities that might be here? You might decide that you want to explore a new part of yourself. Maybe there's something here that is more creative. There's a more emotional side, something you can emotionally bond yourself to with that Venus and Scorpio. Also, the Page of Cups is here to say, trust your intuition. Be open to all the intuitive messages that are coming our way. I mentioned about this person giving me a half truth, and I understand, again, their reason for doing it. And I just remember waking up the next morning and I was like, please don't prove me right. Please don't prove me right. And I knew, there's, again, just that knowing inside. And I'll call it the occupational hazard that I have. But anyways, when they ended up taking an action that poked a hole in their story, I was like, oh, I'm right. I hate that. But again, I let it go. But I'm just sharing these experiences because I have a feeling you guys could relate, right? And that when it shows up, I don't want it to catch you by surprise. Speaking of, the Page of Cups also can indicate that you could receive an unexpected or pleasant surprise. So, because the pages are often known as messenger cards in tarot. And so it's possible you could get some sort of message, and it could be a very pleasant one that you're like, yay, we're pregnant, or yay, we're moving in together, or yay, he loves me, or she loves me, or whatever. It could be, yay, I got some money. We'll talk about that too, because here we are with this new moon eclipse, as I mentioned, Mars trining Saturn, all of this happening, and the sun is conjunct Mercury with the moon at this time. So keep in mind Libra energy, right? It's truth, it's justice, it's understanding all different sides of the coins. Relationships are at the forefront because Libra loves to connect, right? And so we may be thinking a lot about the relationship sector. New moons mean new beginnings. And so one of the things about Libra energy, though, is we often look at it from the reflective quality. And so partners can help teach us more about ourselves if we can stay open to their feedback. That's not always easy, especially if we don't have this unconditional love for ourselves. And if we can embrace the unconditional love, then we can find greater ability to stay open and say, okay, that's your feedback. I appreciate it. Doesn't mean it's always true. Because remember, as I always say, you know truth inside of you. It will resonate. If it doesn't resonate, let it go. I always say that to my clients. I'm like, I'm going to tell you what's coming in. And if it resonates for you, great. If it doesn't, let it go. The other thing about the Libra energy is that we're looking at relationship to ourselves, not just to others. And so we're learning how to find that equilibrium within our emotions, within our minds, and how do we relate to ourselves? Are we using a negative self-talk, or are we actually looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? I love that very imperfect person that I am, and everything about me is exactly what consciousness has manifested so that it can experience itself through the lens of me, right? The other thing, as I mentioned, is that the eclipse is also conjunct Mercury, which is our planet of communication, information. So we might find ourselves in a state of information overload. We might have some really heated discussions and debates, which might be kind of fun if you don't take it personally, or you don't get on your soapbox and start to belittle or be condescending, things like that, or militant about your stance. I'll call it dogma, right? The other thing too is that it's possible with this new moon, because there's going to be some emotions going on here with that trine going on with Mars and Venus and Saturn, but also the square happening. And so there's tension points that are going to run, which can create high emotions. So don't make assumptions. Okay. Like I chose not to confront this person because I was in a high emotional state. I wanted to be right. What did I want from that? Right. I had to check in with myself. And did my motivation trump what I ultimately wanted from the relationship with this individual? And that's the key, right? It's that, is the relationship more important than the subject matter? Check in with that. If we let our emotions master us, then they're going to run the show, and we'll say things and do things we regret. We're here to learn how to master, and that means to create strong emotional bonds. Yeah. Where to master something is to become really grounded, stable, and consistent and disciplined in that particular realm. And so we're learning how to feel everything, but not let it determine how we behave, make our choices for us, if you will. The other thing about this new moon is that people we meet at this time, it could feel fated, it could feel karmic. If we choose to walk away from a relationship that's run its course, it can feel like, yeah, it's meant to be, even though that's hard. You've heard that phrase, hanging on is painful, or excuse me, letting go is painful, but hanging on is suffering. So I love that Buddhist mindset. And there may be some relationships where it's like, you know what, it's hard and I'm sad to leave this, but it's time for me to go. And it'll be further emphasized at the full moon that's happening on the 16th of October, which I'll talk about in another video. But we have, in order to have these new things appear, we may need to create some spaciousness for those new things, right? It's possible we have to face some difficult news or a situation that gets stirred up, but we'll have the resources to do it. We'll have the skills, we'll have the resources, we'll have the support. Some of the intentions, just to give you possible intention setting ideas, staying open to other people's feedback, as I mentioned. Maybe we've been too closed off and we take everything personally and we react, right? Instead of staying open and saying, let me ponder that. Maybe that is something I can improve upon, or something I can do differently or think differently. Another intention would be connecting to new people who can elevate us to that next level. Doing away with people pleasing and setting healthy boundaries. That also is, and self care. That's also another good thing to set up. And dedication to communication. What I mean by that is that we're dedicated to communicating or learning skills to communicate better. Because you know what? As much as we want people to read our minds, they don't. And just because we may get a glimpse or an intuitive hit about what somebody may be thinking or feeling, we don't have the whole picture. And so communicating, not making assumptions, asking those questions, because really it's not about having the answers, really about asking the right questions, right? That's what's key. Venus trining Saturn, I'll point to that too, as we have that moving into the weekend around this new moon and into the weekend and following week, is that our connections can be firm and steady. We'll be looking at our connections if they're based in reality or if they're based in fantasy. Do our finances have staying power? Some new information can come to light regarding our relationships or finances that can help us to achieve something more stable in our future. So if you're feeling a little hopeless or you feel a little downtrodden about relationships or friendships or finances or whatever, we may find that during this Venus trine Saturn transit that there could be more support that enhances us and that gives us a feeling of stability. And also that there could be a greater feeling of responsibility. It's like, I'm going to take on this new relationship or this new financial situation because I'm going to be responsible with it. I'm going to tend it like I would something so precious to me. And that's where we get to look at the universe and we get to say, you know what? I do deserve X, Y, and Z because I know I will take care of it. I know I will tend it. And I think that's the biggest emphasis here for this week and the eclipse and the energies that's happening is, are we tending, taking care of the things we've been given as our, I was going to say our possession, but the things we are stewarded with. All right, you guys, I hope this helps. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Come find me at jamiedawn.com, 12listen. And I'm hoping to be live with you on 12 Radio on Monday. And I hope that you guys have a great week. I'd love to hear your stories and what's happening for you. And yeah, thanks so much. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.